Hello, and welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, where we explore the entrepreneur mindset and the characteristics and traits that lead to success. I'm your host, Janet Fish, and in this episode, we talk with PK Odle about how Feng Shui can help your business be more successful. PK runs the Feng Shui Advantage, an international consulting company that utilizes the centuries-old Chinese system of optimizing your environment to support your well-being, relationships, and prosperity. She specializes in helping business owners thrive financially, increase productivity, and reduce spending. She works with clients virtually throughout the world on the residential and commercial spaces. I hope you enjoy our chat. Good afternoon, PK Odle. How are you doing today?
Excellent. How are you, Janet?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm sheltering in place and hanging in and doing all the things we're supposed to do. How about you?
Likewise, I've taken an oath to stay healthy for my clients and my students to be able to carry on for many years to come.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So let's just start out by talking a little bit, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. Just give us some background on you.
Oh, well, I am now a master Feng Shui consultant. I've been doing Feng Shui consulting for 23 years. I work virtually, thanks to 21st century technology. I can work virtually with clients from designing an office building in Kobe, Japan, to working on a townhouse that was built after World War II in Denmark, to a 100-year-old villa outside of Pisa, Italy, that survived World War II. So I work with clients remotely all over the world, even locally now. I'm doing remote consulting if somebody just lives the next town over from me. I'm also the executive director of the American Feng Shui Institute, where I've been teaching for them since 1998. We train people how to be a classical Feng Shui consultant, doing the science of Feng Shui, not the one-size-fits-all, where people sell you trinkets and tell you that everybody needs the same things in the same place. That would be kind of like somebody selling you a do-it-yourself acupuncture kit.
Right. So how did you get into Feng Shui? I mean, I know it was 23 years ago, but how'd you find yourself there?
Well, I left travel this month 23 years ago, and I had been the on-site travel agent at a company called LA Gear. They made shoes. And when I joined them, about 6 months later, they consolidated from 3 buildings to 1 building near the Santa Monica airport. When they did that, they didn't know the building had a major Feng Shui problem. And within 3 years of that move, they were selling the name for licensing purposes and had closed down all their operations. So I was taken out of my private office at LA Gear and put in a reservation center. I was miserable. I loved my private office. I was working in this chaotic environment, doing the same work, but just a different environment. That's all that had changed. Every day I'd go home. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back there. And so a fellow employee there handed me the flyer for a local bookstore. And I saw the words Feng Shui for the first time. I had never heard of it. I'm sure in my mind I pronounced it incorrectly, but I saw that flyer and I saw Master Sang's face, and it said, "Your environment affects your entire life." I said, "Oh my." I looked around. I've got to meet this guy. And so I went, luckily, that Friday night, and I still have my copy of the Principles of Feng Shui that I got from him. It's autographed from him from March of 1996. And I started studying with him after that. I changed my life in 1 weekend. I did what I could from that book. That's like our textbook for our beginning intermediate class. I did what I could from that one book. And on Monday afternoon, I get a call from somebody else in travel. And they said, "Would you like to be recommended for the on-site at Creative Artist Agency?" Well, I had no idea. My first question was, does it have a private office? I didn't want a cubicle. And they said, yes, in their building in Beverly Hills. My second question was, is parking included? He informed me that Creative Artist Agency was one of the top 2 talent agencies in the world. And yes, I'd have a parking place in their building. And so I said, okay, recommend me. That was Monday afternoon. By Friday afternoon, I'd gone through a series of interviews, both with the travel agency that I'd be working for and all the department heads within CAA. and I was giving my notice to take that job, I picked the book back up and I said, oh my, I got to study this stuff. And that's when I started studying. I started practicing with my friends. And when I took the classes with Master Sang, he must have recognized I had teacher mentality, because he invited me to keep coming back. And within, I started from taking the classes with him, within less than a year, I started my consulting business full time. I don't recommend to my students they do that. I recommend that they build their reputation and build their business slowly, because it's very hard to survive when you're building your reputation, as you well know, Janet. So this is my advice to my students and anybody else in business. And within a year after starting my business, I started teaching for the Institute. And then in 2014, they made me the executive director of the Institute.
Hey, it's Janet. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying our show, please subscribe to get all of our episodes as soon as they're available. We appreciate you listening and sharing with your friends. Excellent. So it sounds like in your business, part of your business is training people to be Feng Shui consultants. I guess that would be the name that you would call them. Mm-hmm. And then the other component of your business is to work with, entrepreneurs like myself or mm-hmm. any other entrepreneur to help us leverage Feng Shui to grow our business, to run our business more effectively. Talk a little bit about what you would do with an entrepreneur to help mm-hmm. them use Feng Shui to do what? Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, Feng Shui actually already exists in all buildings, just like gravity exists, just like our DNA in our body exists. Scientists didn't know about the DNA in our bodies. They didn't know how they could make corrections to DNA problems or manipulate the DNA in people, let alone plants. But centuries ago, the Feng Shui masters figured out there's energy in buildings, and different buildings affect people differently. So when I hear a news story about children murdering their parents, I'm like wondering, what's the energy combination at that house? What's going on there that might have caused that? Because every building has a combination of energies. There's no wealth corner for everybody. There's no fame position in every building. Every building has 9 equal sections. These 9 sections divide the interior width and the interior depth of every level of the unit into this grid. And in
so I'm going to interrupt you for a second, because I don't yet, and you'll learn this from me, I don't yet care about that.
Okay.
Yet. Because that's the how do you do it, right? Okay. And you haven't gotten me yet, because I want to know how would I benefit, and then I care about the how, but I don't care about the how until you can say to me something like, and maybe you can use some examples from your clients. I might come to you and say, I feel stuck in getting new clients of this kind, or I feel like this isn't working for. I mean, obviously, I come from the standpoint there's got to be a challenge or some pain mm-hmm. for me to mm-hmm. want to go and do something differently. Mm-hmm. So before we get into the 9 sections and the how, talk about what you have done with entrepreneurs, to what their challenges were and how you helped them solve those challenges through rearranging the deck chairs on their deck.
Excellent. Well, the first thing I do is I analyze the energies in their building, and I tell them what remedies they need. The remedies are the 5 elements. But what happens when they don't have these elements in there to optimize the energies is that they experience delays. In every building, there are energies that create delays. There are permanent sets of energies, and then there's a visiting set of energy that creates delays. And that's one of the biggest problems that I help my clients that are in business for themselves overcome, is the delays. So if they have the energy of delays at their entrance, in their bedrooms, in their home office areas, if they're the permanent energies, it's just ongoing delays. Delays in people hiring them completing projects, them getting paid, delays that result in clutter. I visited one lady's house. She's a psychotherapist. She had a thriving practice, but her house was covered in piles of things. Papers, clothing, just piles everywhere. Some of them were knee-high. And luckily, she had the floor plan. So when I visited her home, I saw all these piles. And when I did the calculations, I saw she had the energy of delays permanently at her front door and permanently in her bedroom. When she put the necessary element in as a remedy, she calls me up the end of the first week, PK, I'm getting rid of things every week. Within 6 months, she had cleared out all that clutter, had me back because she wanted to do a redesign on it. And so she had me feng shui her guest house in the back so she could redesign it first and live out there while the whole house got redone. So, and then she says, oh, come and do my office, but I'm afraid my clientele is going to freak out because you make me do changes. Well, yes, her office needed help. And I had her move her desk to the other side and things like that. But her clientele was like, what have you done? It feels different in here. We love it. And her practice is thriving, and she's been getting her annual updates from me every single year.
Awesome. That's really, really good to hear. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Marie Diamond?
Yes, I am familiar with Marie.
So I had back in the day, it was a long time ago, I had her come and I paid a lot of money. I know you guys are worth every penny. I paid her a big amount of money. And she came into my house and did a feng shui. And I remember she said to me, you're going to write a book and you're going to be on stages. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. But it immediately did change my life. I mean, there were some big things that automatically turned. So I'm a firm believer in all of this. I think it's awesome. So it sounds
the thing is, did Marie Diamond teach you what your right brain direction is to sit in that position when you're writing your book versus your left brain direction to sit in that position while you're editing it according to your date of birth?
No, but I didn't write the book for a very long time after that. I mean, it wasn't like I went out the next day, the next week to write a book. I just, it was a long time after that. And now I've written 5 books. Clearly she knew what she was talking about. So it sounds like you started out as working as a travel agent or a travel person. Were you an entrepreneur at that point? Have you always been an entrepreneur? When did you become an entrepreneur? Why did you become an entrepreneur? Talk a little bit about that journey.
Oh, I became an entrepreneur when I was about 8 years old. I was looking at a children's magazine, and in the back I saw these fun little ads, and one of them said, sell packages of seeds and packages of greeting cards, door to door, earn money. Unbeknownst to my parents, I mailed off for that. Probably used my birthday money or Christmas money and mailed off for that and got them and started selling them door to door in our neighborhood.
Oh, that's so funny. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And you've been an entrepreneur ever since.
Yes, I have. Yes.
So what do you like best about being an entrepreneur? And what do you like least?
What I like least is all the mundane thing you have to do to manage a business part of it. What I like most about it is getting the phone calls from somebody. Oh, PK, I got engaged over the weekend. Do I still keep buying my romance flowers? I'm like, no, honey, you made your choice. You're not looking for more to choose from. Got it.
So it's hearing the success stories from your clients.
Or people telling me my business has increased, doubled. And one lady said it's gone up 300% because she's a very well-known businesswoman and she really tracks her numbers. And she says it's gone up 300%.
Oh, that's a great things to hear. And you can't take the coach out of the girl. All those mundane things, we can hire some of those out. So remember that we can definitely
I am currently shopping for a new VA.
Oh, good. That's good. Good for you.
I have my bookkeeper. I have my CPA. I have my webmaster, and but I am currently shopping for some good VAs that know how to use all the software that we're using.
Yeah, so you've definitely got some team around you, which is good. So as an entrepreneur, we all have challenges that we've gone through. Can you talk about it doesn't have to be a big challenge, but talk about some of the challenges that you've encountered in your 23 years, at least of being feng shui, and then talk about how you've overcome them.
Okay. Well, one of the first challenges that hit me when I first started studying feng shui, and I went to that fellow employee that had handed me the flyer for the bookstore, and I said, oh, wow, I'm studying this, and thank you for giving me that flyer because that's how I discovered it. I'd like to practice on your apartment and give you a free feng shui consultation. She goes, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm Christian. And I was like aghast. I had no idea that I would ever have that response from somebody, and I did not have the years of experience to be able to answer her. Well, God created everything. He created the energies in our building. My job is just to optimize them for you, to make things better for you, just like going to see your acupuncturist or your chiropractor or your dentist. My job is to work with what's already there. And I did not have the expertise on how to respond to her after that.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that never happened. Well, first of all, no one probably ever asked you that question again. However, I'm sure that if someone had, you would have a response for that. And I love that, because I still get, I'll call that handling an objection, and I still get objections, and I don't necessarily have a scripted answer for what that's going to look like. But like, I've been in business for a long, long time, and objections come and they go, and that's just part of being in business. So there's a lot of what I love about you as a Feng Shui expert is not only do you practice it, but you teach it, and I think that's huge. That's a huge differentiator that makes you different than other people out there doing the same thing. What do you think makes you different and extraordinary as a Feng Shui consultant?
It's that I bring that teaching to my clients too. I don't just say, do this, do that, and don't ask me why. A lot of my clients are my students that find out how complex it is, and they want to know, they want to jump ahead 3 years of studying and find out what to do to their house on a deeper level. But a lot of my clientele, they become more aware, and when they start choosing wall color for themselves, they'll ask me before they choose the wall color, because sometimes they're want to go with something with more of a flare, and it's going to interfere with their Feng Shui. And then they ask me in advance before they choose their next location. So I do house hunting with clients often, and I tell them whether the house is going to be a good fit for them or not, or whether we're going to be able to fix the energies, especially in condos and offices and commercial spaces where we can't do outside remedies like we can in the single family home.
So what do you do when you can't fix you don't have a remedy for an issue?
Only the outside remedies become difficult in commercial spaces, condo complexes, and apartment complexes and things like that. And then we just maximize and do what we can, optimizing the energies inside when we can't do the remedies outside. And those are the cases where I'd say, when your lease is up, let's talk about finding you another location that supports you better, because your luck and your efforts are being impeded somewhat by this building. We're optimizing it, we're making it the best it can, and things are going to improve. But I would highly suggest you not re-signing a lease.
Got it.
And that's a rare occasion that happens.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's usually something you can do to improve.
Yeah, because like if we can't do the remedies outside, I'll say, let's move your desk over and you sit in the energy inside that's optimum for making money. Yeah. And then they're spending more time in it, because it's where we have prolonged exposure to these energies inside that are affecting us the most, not your closets and your bedrooms and your bathrooms. I don't care what anybody does in their bathroom, unless there's a door to the outside, and then it becomes as important as any other entrance into a building. But I do care that they close the toilet lid. That's the only information for the bathroom, because that's to keep the germs inside the bowl and keep them from spreading 6 feet in all directions, getting on our toothbrushes and our makeup jars and the towels we're going to dry our hands and face with.
I always thought it was because I had heard that if you leave the toilet seat open, then money flows away.
Nobody makes money in their bathrums. Not even plumbers. They make money in our bathrooms. I'm just telling you,
that's what I had heard.
I know.
So I always close
it,
but it's something. It's like money's flying away. Money's flying down the toilet or something like that.
Yeah, that's one of the Feng Shui myths that I get
that's good to know.
Question about all the time, and that's not true. Also, if you can see through your house to things where you can see through it, that's not an issue. It's when the air currents can pass through. So if William Tell could shoot an arrow straight through your house, then you've got the energy flying straight through it. And that takes the new energy in, takes it out, and the money doesn't linger. So the rule is they're just not both opened at the same time. And then you have no problem.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this podcast we talk a lot about the characteristics and traits that make up successful entrepreneurs. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any specific traits that you believe are important?
They sincerely care about their clientele, that they're not just in it for a quick buck and then moving on, that they will be there to answer follow-up questions, and that they keep improving their knowledge. And just like a nurse or a doctor has to take new classes, even your CPA has to stay on top of things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Can you, I don't know if this it has played a role in your success as an entrepreneur at all, but talk about community and relationships with other entrepreneurs, and if that has had any kind of an effect, and what your recommendations would be for people around that.
Oh, yes. Build your community. Don't just start with your bookkeeper and your CPA, but your healers, they can be your community, your business coaches, because everybody needs a business coach. My Lord, Tiger Woods still has a coach. Up until he retired, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had a wonderful coach and had a long time relationship with Wooden. But even after he retired from basketball, I'm sure he had business coaches. So get coaching and get it early, because you're going to be sorry if you didn't. It's kind of like the lady that was another psychotherapist. She waited 3 years to hire me because she says, PK, I just know you're going to tell me to move my waterbed. And yes, when she finally hired me, I told her to move her waterbed, and I told her all the remedies to improve her money, her health, and her relationships. Well, all of that improved, and she came back the next month to a meeting where we saw each other monthly. She goes, PK, I'm sleeping like a baby. I wish I would have called you 3 years ago. So the same thing with business coaching. Get the coaching as early as you can possibly get it into your budget.
Yeah. Well, and we met through an organization, a community of entrepreneurs that, and actually in a number of different areas, because we've overlapped in some. One was writing a book, a compilation book, and then the other was Susie Pruden, who has been on this podcast, and that's how we met. Has a Dinner at Your Place, which is what she started with the pandemic, and we're all sitting inside on a Friday night, not being able to go out. And I just find not only what you're talking about as getting coaching and getting help, but just the support of other people. I mean, I call people all the time, other entrepreneurs, if I'm having a rough day or I've got a challenge or I just want to celebrate a success, right? So, I mean, I just think it's really important to have your group, your posse of entrepreneurs that are there to support you in the good times and then in the not so good times, because I just think it's really important to have that.
I learned as a high school student, I learned to study my friends' mistakes so I wouldn't have to make the same ones.
Oh, so talk a little bit more about that.
Oh, yes. Well, one of my best friends in high school, her twin sisters and their stepsister all came back our senior year pregnant. And I was like, not going to happen to me.
Okay, that's kind of a big one. Kind of a big one not to do.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. I think that's important that you don't do that. All right, and I'm really interested to hear your take on the role that your gut and intuition plays in decision making, and I'm interested in that not only just because being in the field of Feng Shui is very it's deeper than just regular thought. It's anyway, I don't know how to articulate what I'm saying, but it's a deeper way of feeling and understanding energy and all of that. And so I call it intuition, you might call, or gut, you might call it something else, but talk a little bit about the role that's played.
Well, when I was young and I was checking out apartments, I would listen to my gut going, no, I don't think I like this one, and things like that. And a lot of people have that. And even my clients who are healers, that use their intuition, that test people and treat people using their intuition, they come to me, and when I tell them what Feng Shui remedies to put in, when they change them, they're the ones that feel it first. They're not waiting for the results to see if it works. They actually feel it. But what I'm using to do those are calculations about the energies, about the orientation of the building, when it was built. And then I can determine for each year that you're in it, because circumstances change from year to year in every building. So I can tell what's going on in their buildings. And they tell me early on, oh, I made the shift, I could feel, and then they could see they feel it before they see the results, where the other clients feel the results. So I'm not really going by my intuition. However, in Feng Shui, there is one thing: if spirits reside in the house because somebody was murdered there or committed suicide, or it's on a ancient battleground or gravesite, in Feng Shui, the way to clarify that land is to burn it for 3 days. Well, we're not going to get to do that in today's civilization. So I went and learned something else. It's called radiance, the authentic Reiki. So I use the Reiki technique to clear that part where we can't do the ancient Feng Shui remedy for it. So I combine that with both. So sometimes when I would visit homes to go over it, I'd be going over the report with them, and they say, is this going to help get rid of the spirits? And I go, oh, okay, when we're done, you can stay here and write down questions that you want to ask me, and I'm going to go around your house and do radiance on it and clear out the spirits. And by the time I get back to where they're looking over the report that they've gotten, they're like, we could feel the shift when it left. I'm like, okay.
No, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So do you have, and this is a really general question. I don't even know if that has an answer. So if the answer is no, then that's fine. But do you have any recommendations? So I'm a business owner and I want to make more money, because who doesn't? Is there anything that all business owners should be doing or looking at to improve that situation? Or is it like, I need to just hire PK and is there any recommendations you'd have for where someone would start if they wanted to make more money in their business?
Okay. Well, one thing that causes financial setbacks and also health and relationship problems is clutter. So if you can unclutter areas, even outside in sheds and garages, then it's not about being minimalistic. I'm an American. I realize we're not going to be minimalistic, but it's about having things well organized and not in what you might call an I Love Lucy episode. Okay. So there are two directions right now where everybody on the planet should not have clutter. And these directions go until February 4th of 2024. All right. That's the Northeast and the Northwest. And that's for everybody on the planet right now. So no clutter inside or outside. And those are magnetic directions, not the top, not going by the top of a map. You have to find out where your magnetic locations are. And you can easily do that with your cell phone apps by going in the settings and shutting off True North, or making sure it's turned off. And then recalibrating it by waving it in the infinity symbol, infinity shape in front of you. And then it will recalibrate. Then you can find out where the 45 degrees of Northeast and Northwest are. But according to each person's date of birth, you have your own lifetime direction where you don't want to have clutter or missing areas of your house. So if your house is not a nice rectangle or a square, and the missing section happens to be from your date of birth, not a good one, or the Northeast or the Northwest right now. I had one client whose business, that one portion of their business was a garden area outside, and there was no roof over it, but it was the Northwest section. And that's one of the sections where this time period, you don't want it to be missing. So I told her what the remedy was, and I can tell everybody what that remedy is. It's where those two walls would go and connect to make that corner where it should be. So like if you're saying that it's missing, like one area is missing, so where that walls would make and connect it. At that point, you either put in a tall, full bush that is like greenery and full from the ground up. You can put 2 or 3, 3 or 5 of them over there, because I know designers like odd numbers. So you can put more over there, but one has to be right at that point. Or you can put in a lamp post. Well, this lady chose to put a lamp post because it happened to be on the side by their parking lot. And she always wanted a light out there. So she put a nice lamp post in, made it stone to match the facade of the front of the building, and she had them wire it to be on all the time. So if it was ever off, she knew the bulb needed to be replaced. She says, PK, our sales have gone up 30%, but our profits have gone up 40% because she was able to get her business more out into the world.
So it's understanding northeast and northwest and decluttering those.
Mm-hmm.
And then
for
there's
everybody.
Then there's something that you layer on top that has to do specifically with you, and that's tied to your birthday.
Yeah, and that's what your listeners, I will be happy to send that to them.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that as well.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about how they learn more about you, and I think you've got something special for them. So we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to just go in the direction of balance and talk about the need for balance in your life. So what do you do? What did you do? What do you do? I mean, the world is a little bit of a different place right now. But what do you do for fun? What can you still do for fun, or what makes you joyful?
Well, my main hobby is ancestry. I love getting on ancestry.com. I've been on there for about 5 years now, and just discovering who am I related to and how far back can I go on this branch or that branch, and just discovering that when I first got into it, the first historical person I found out was a cousin of mine, was Daniel Boone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How funny is that?
Yeah. And then I found out that, because on my dad's side, I knew nothing about his ancestry. His father died when he was 5. So I knew nothing about his ancestry, and my grandmother did not stay connected with except one branch of his family. So, and that was the cousin that married my mother's brother. So that's another part of my ancestry. But when I started researching his, and I found out that my family, one of my 9th great grandfathers signed the London Compact that started Jamestown. And he was here in 1607, and then went back and did paperwork and other things, and got preparations for sending all the people that came. And then he brought his family over in 1611.
Interesting. So, and that's a great hobby that you can do during
Anywhere.
COVID, because
Yeah.
Sitting at your computer doing that. Oh, that's great. That's really interesting. So what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, you talked about your history or your ancestry. What do you want your legacy to be?
All the students that I've trained, getting out there and helping more and more people. Because when I would fly and I would look down at all the neighborhoods and I'd look at all the buildings, I was like, there's no way in 3 lifetimes I could do all of these buildings. So we need to train more people to get out there. It's just like there's not enough acupuncture schools. But acupuncture schools have stringent rules, and everybody has to go and pass a stringent test to get an acupuncture license. And yes, it varies a little bit from state to state, how many hours they have to put in and things like that. But unfortunately in Feng Shui, when somebody says they're a certified Feng Shui consultant, it is just whoever they studied with. And unfortunately, there are people out there mixing up all kinds of things and teaching things like you're going to flush your money away if you flush with the toilet lid up, instead of the real reason it's about sanitation. There's many things in Feng Shui that's about sanitation. And the reason why in olden times they told you not to have your water supply in your kitchen next to where you cooked has nothing to do with our modern plumbing or our modern appliances. It had to do with the buckets that they brought their water in. If they had it nearby, and I apologize to vegetarians, and they were butchering an animal in the kitchen and the blood of that animal got in or on the bucket, they would take that bucket back to the water supply and contaminate it. It has nothing to do with where your kitchen sink is with its faucet now and your metal stove.
Interesting. How all of that plays in.
Yeah.
How would somebody, so you talked a little bit about anybody could study and say, okay, I'm a Feng Shui consultant or specialist. And so how do they identify, other than just hiring you, which I think would be the smart thing for them to do, but how would I identify who's the real deal and who's not?
Well, some people have written too many books about Feng Shui, and you get confused reading that same author's books. But Master Sang, who founded the American Feng Shui Institute, who taught me everything I know, he collects the old ancient books and tries out what's in there and sees what works. But it's been passed down in his family since 907 AD. Since the first Feng Shui master escaped the emperor's control and lived in the mountains in hiding and taught his sons and daughters and one apprentice, and that's Master Sang's ancestor. So when Beijing found out they were getting the 2008 Olympics, the younger people in Beijing that aren't Maoist, that didn't believe Mao when he outlawed Feng Shui, and Mao outlawed Feng Shui because he was a Feng Shui master, and he didn't want anybody else to have that knowledge to be able to overthrow him. But so there's still some old Maoists in the Chinese government, but the young ones wanted Feng Shui done on the village there in Beijing for the Olympics, because they wanted to be able to repurpose all the buildings, the dormitories where they slept and all the other where they competed in. And they went looking for the best Feng Shui master in the world, and they chose Master Sang. They brought him in, quote, as an architectural advisor, not to upset the old Maoist in the government. But he worked on the Beijing Olympic sites. He turned the economy of Guam around and became a official ambassador for Guam because he turned their economy around. This man is the real deal. We can trace his ancestry. He will not teach anything that he would not use for his own family members or his clientele. And that's why I am blessed. I just find myself blessed that he was the first person I ever met about Feng Shui. And I decided early on that I was going to go a deep dive into his well of knowledge and not go spreading out, trying to mix all kinds of things together.
Oh, good. So you're somebody who's studied with him, would get your definite seal of approval.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so let's talk about what your offer is, how people can learn more about you, and how Feng Shui can help them in their business.
Okay. Well, what I would like to send your listeners, if they want to send me their first name, it can be a nickname. It's not about the name. Their full date of birth, though, month, day, year. And I do need their gender in case their name's something like Chris. I don't know what gender they are, because that's what it's based on. And I will tell them where their clutter-free direction is. Okay. It's their trigram from the I Ching. Feng Shui and acupuncture are based on an ancient Chinese book called the I Ching. And it teaches us about the yin and yang theory and the 5-element theory. So I will tell them what direction relates to their trigram of birth, and that's where they need to keep it clean and neat. Along with that, what colors are good for them to wear, because each direction relates to an element. So when you wear the colors of your element, you're wearing your own element. Or when you wear the colors of the element that's productive to you. For instance, I'm a wood element. So I can wear the color green a lot because that's the wood element. It's not the brown of our furniture. It's the green leaves that make oxygen. But when I wear blue or black, it's like I'm wearing water that's feeding my wood. So I will tell everybody what that is. Then I tell them from their trigram direction, what's their best sleeping direction? Which way does your crown point when you're laying down sleeping? I don't care about your nose and your toes. It's about where your crown is connected when you're laying down sleeping. You have your best, and then you have 3 other good directions. So there's going to be 4 good directions and 4 bad directions. If you're married to somebody and their good directions are the other one's bad directions and vice versa, then we do a compromise. So there's 2 things that affect you: the building or your unit's orientation, and the bed. The only one we can move is the bed. So we figure out who is supported by the building or the unit and give the other person the bed direction. Simple little compromise. And then the last thing is I will tell them there are 4 general good directions to have behind their back for support when they want to work. There's deeper directions like your right and left brain directions that I mentioned earlier if you really want to do creative things versus analytical things, but that comes with a consultation. But I'll give them their 4 general good directions for sitting.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's great. All right. Well, thank you.
And you can, in your show notes, you can put the email address.
Oh, yeah. I will definitely put all of that and what you need to send you. So it's just their name, their birthday, and their gender. Yes. And it's their first name.
Yeah, I don't. It's not about what their legal name is. I'm not doing numerology. Mm-hmm.
All right. So just whatever like you said, it could be a nickname.
Right.
Awesome. All right, PK, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of time with us. This was awesome.
I love your format. I love your format, dear, and I love listening to all your other podcasts. And I highly recommend other people search around on whatever platform they like their podcast and listen to several episodes.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So stay on because I've got some other things. But just to have a great rest of your day, I really appreciate you. Thank you for listening to The Breakaway Entrepreneur with Janet Fish. If you liked our show and want more, check us out at www.breakawayentrepreneur.com. If you have any questions, please email me at coach@breakawaybusinesscoaching.com. I'll answer your questions in an upcoming podcast. Hope you'll join us next week. If you like our podcast, please subscribe to make sure you get our next episode as soon as it's available. If you know somebody who would like our show, please share it with them. As always, we appreciate you giving us a review in Apple Podcasts. Till next week, make it a great day.